everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Mademoiselle Lena, and you can find me online at www.conjureknits.com. Today is Wednesday, May the 19th, 2021, and we are here for our virtual book club. We are currently reading Enchantment of the Faerie Realm, and it has been fantastic. We've learned so much already. If you are brand new, just coming in, and you haven't been to any of the previous sessions, you can always go back on my YouTube channel and look for the playlist that says Virtual Book Club. So all the past episodes are in there if you'd like to not really catch up, because it seems like each chapter it's pretty well built on its own without having to have all of the background. In fact, this week we are going to be learning about the touch of the tree spirits. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. But before we do get started, I would like to say, feel free to jump in and comment at any time. We welcome your comments. All right. And then we can do a few little discussion things here and there if need be. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started.
9. The Touch of the Tree Spirits. The tree is an ancient magical symbol. It represents all things that grow, fertility, and life itself. To some, it is the world axis. To others, it is the world itself. Its roots are in the earth, and yet its branches reach toward the heavens. It is a bridge between heaven and earth, a mediator between the two worlds. It is a natural doorway to other realms, especially that of the fairies and elves. The tree has been associated with both paradise and hell, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. In Greek mythology, the golden fleece hung upon a tree. The Christian cross was originally a tree. Buddha found enlightenment sitting under one. Odin hung upon the great tree Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights in order to attain higher wisdom. The ancient Druids recognized distinct energies of individual trees. Every civilization has its stories, myths, and legends of the tree. Consider, too, all that is done with trees. They bear fruit. They provide wood, shade, windbreaks, and shelters. They are boundaries, separating one piece of land from another, or one world from another. Every tree can be a doorway to the Faerie Realm. All children are drawn to them. They climb them, play in them, and even build houses in them. Much of this has to do with the energy of the tree and its connection to the Faerie Realm. Children are drawn naturally to those places where fairies are found, and fairies and elves are drawn to children, stimulating imagination and play in them. Children instinctively feel the spirit of trees, even if they do not recognize it for what it is. Trees have always been imbued with certain magical and spiritual attributes. Our superstition of knocking on wood was initiated to ensure that no spirits were residing within the tree before it was cut down. In German folklore, one particular group of spirits, known as the kobold, inhabited trees. The trees in which these sprites lived were cut down, and sections were carved into figures so that the sprites would still have a home. They were then enclosed in wooden boxes and brought inside the home. The children were warned never to go near them. If they opened a box, the kobold would be released and wreak havoc. The jack-in-the-box was designed to scare children away so that the kobold would not be disturbed again. No tree is without its spirit. It is home to a living being that oversees all activities and energies associated with the tree. This spirit grows with the tree and disappears with its death. Tree spirits have great dignity. Tree spirits are generally affectionate to people and are drawn to humans. It is not unusual for humans to have their favorite tree, and for trees to have their favorite human. I was always very fortunate to have had close contact with a wide variety of trees. Most of my early life was spent in an area in which there was an abundance of woods. My brothers and I played in the woods, among the trees, creeks, and ponds. My grandfather would occasionally walk in the woods, looking for young trees to transplant to our yard. When he walked, his head would always be cocked, as if listening, and then he would just suddenly stop and know exactly which tree to take. One of the first tree spirits I ever truly encountered was an elm in part of the woods where we often played tag, hide and seek, and other games. I remember one time hiding next to an elm behind a bush at its base. The bush was sparse. I knew if someone came by that I would be spotted, and yet I couldn't move either, for that would surely give me away. I could hear the others drawing close, and I didn't know what to do. It was then that I heard a soft voice whisper my name. I jumped, startled at first, and then heard a soft, gentle laugh. I raised my head to the branches above me, following the sound of the laughter. I saw a soft face appear in the bark. "Just lean back against me," the tree whispered, "and imagine that you are part of my bark." I was stunned, but I leaned back, making myself comfortable. I heard my brother's voices and the voices of our friends. I was the only one who had not been found. They drew closer, and I could hear them scouring the bushes for me. I found myself relaxing, and at times I felt like I was sinking into the tree itself. I even felt like I was peering out from the bark, just like the face I had seen when I heard my name. I even felt a little sleepy, but I fought it. I was afraid that if I fell asleep, I would be found. They searched all around for me. One of my brothers and one of our friends even stood not 6 inches from me, and I knew that I was invisible to them. I remember having to stifle a giggle. As they moved off to another part of the woods, I felt myself sitting outside the bark again. I stood and faced the tree, unsure what to say or do. The face within it was very distinct, and it smiled and again laughed softly. It was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. I would go back to that tree many times to hide, and never was I ever caught there. This beautiful spirit would show me how to see spirits in trees and plants, and how to become one with them. I didn't know it then, but I was receiving my first lessons in shapeshifting. Tree spirits are not bound to the tree, although they will often stay close. They can emerge from the tree for a little distance when they desire. Usually during the day, they are so busy with normal growing activities, they are not very discernible. At night, when the outside world slows down, they are more free. They have greater opportunity to move about. Many people get the jitters when outside at night, especially in forested and wooded areas. Part of this is a response to the energy of the tree spirits, as they begin to emerge from the trees and their presence is felt more strongly. They are not harmful, but they are drawn to humans. They can also be quite affectionate. It is easier to feel their presence when the day's activities have slowed. They often have vibrations that are so strong and different that people will get chills and shivers when they are around. Every tree is also home to a wide variety of elves and fairies. Often they live in communities and are seen in groups. Many of them are tied to the tree for life, and they are very protective of them. That's why it is best to ask their permission before cutting. The tree elves are usually what are first seen by humans around the tree, and are often mistaken for the actual tree spirit. Most of these fairies and elves are earth spirits. They often live beneath the surface of the tree, but they are frequently seen running along its branches. A great horned owl appearing in an oak tree can often be a signal of the presence of a shape-shifting wood elf. The elder tree has the highest elf population. Under its roots live many tiny elves. The elder also has its own fairy personality, sheltering many good elves and fairies. The oak tree has a long history of magic and fairy lore associated with it. It is often the home or gathering spot of many nature spirits, and it always resents being cut. Elms will mourn cut members of their family, and willow spirits have been known to follow travelers on dark nights for short distances, muttering behind them. The hawthorn has long been considered an elf tree, and cutting one will bring misfortune from the elves that lived within it. The lime tree in Denmark is thought to be a favorite of elves. One group of elves found beneath trees are known as the moss maidens in Germanic lore. These very ancient beings live within the root systems of trees. They hold the knowledge of the healing power of all plants. Actual tree fairies are rare, but many fairies will attach themselves to a particular tree or species of tree. Wildflowers, when found at the base of a tree, especially the oak, often signal the homes of tiny fairies. The wildflowers grow at the foot of trees, so they can share in the protection and energy of the tree spirit. The most common wildflower homes for tree fairies are cowslips, thyme, foxgloves, and bluebells. There are others of the Faerie Realm who also gather and live around trees, in woods and forested areas. To the Greeks, they were known as dryads. To most people, they are simply known as wood nymphs. They are still found in wooded and forested areas, especially those that are somewhat wild. The wood nymphs are usually female and wear little or no clothing. Glimpses usually show them dancing in the sunlight that comes through the trees. They sing beautifully, often imitating the birds. They understand the language of animals and of humans. They have a great curiosity about humans, and although they usually avoid direct contact, they will sometimes risk it for the opportunity to observe humans. Sometimes the wood nymphs will appear childlike, and they are drawn to certain kinds of trees. They are very playful and rejoice in all expressions of nature in their environment. In an area of the woods where I grew up that we called Fort Apache was a young wood nymph, although I did not realize it at the time. It was a young girl who always had a squirrel at her feet. I would see her occasionally spying on us through the trees while we played. Once, when I went to that area by myself, she came from behind the tree. She did not speak a lot, and she often laughed at my expressions, but never in a mean way. Her laugh was contagious, and she let me pet her squirrel. She had a knack for avoiding my questions. She would just laugh when I asked her why I never saw her at school. Her answer to my question as to where she lived was always the same: around here. When I asked her name, she would pretend she didn't hear. To this day, I still do not know what her name was. Whenever she seemed tired of my questions, she would erupt with wonderful laughter and then run in among the trees, disappearing. I remember the last time I saw her. I had gone to that area alone again. I wasn't sure if I would see her or not, as her appearances were becoming more and more scarce. I found her sitting by the creek with her feet in the water. She was crying. The squirrel was not with her, which I found to be very curious. I stood there, feeling awkward, and wishing that I hadn't come out looking for her. She looked up and gave me a half smile, as if she had heard my thoughts. I asked if she were all right, and she stood and said she was. "Why are you crying?" I asked. "I have to leave," she answered softly. I remember shivering as the trees rustled with a sudden breeze. She stepped up to me and kissed me on the cheek. I was surprised. She laughed at my expression and then dashed off among the trees. I heard her call out, "I will remember you, Ted Andrews." And then she was gone. I never saw her again. The next week, developers started clearing the area to build some new houses. Along with the wood nymphs that are found within forested and heavily wooded areas, there is usually a mistress or lady of the woods. often in the form of a beautiful woman. This spirit is guardian to entire forested areas, or even small groves of trees. Birch groves are intersections in which they often appear. These beings are enchantingly beautiful, and they speak the language of the animals. They are often tending to and attended by deer, and they sing sweet songs that touch the heart and bless the grove. They know all that goes on within their woods, and you only see them if they allow it, no matter how accidental it may seem. To encounter the Lady of the Woods is a blessing that is similar to those of the traditional fairy patrons and godmothers, as will be discussed in Chapter 11. Facility at seeing the tree spirits and elves will vary from individual to individual. Much depends on practice and knowledge of what to look for. The meditation at the end of this chapter will help. Learning and studying about the qualities of the particular tree will also tell you a lot about the character of its spirit. The next section of this chapter will help you attune to some of the tree personalities and characteristics. The following are general suggestions for attuning to tree spirits, fairies, and elves. 1. Read and study the lore of trees. 2. Spend time around trees. Go to parks, climb a tree, or sit under one, and just enjoy being in its presence. 3. If possible, take time to go out into nature on camping trips or extended outings away from the city. 4. Meditate upon different trees. Pay attention to how each tree makes you feel. Try to determine its inner character and spirit. Use the meditation at the end of this chapter to help. 5. Occasionally, sit at a distance from trees and bushes, and then allow your eyes to half focus, using a daydream kind of gaze upon the tree. Can you see any forms or faces in the configurations of bark and branches? Don't worry whether you may be imagining it. You are stretching your perceptions. This soft focus helps in seeing the spirit of the tree. It will usually be first noticed peering out from the gnarled bark. With practice and persistence, you will start to see much more. Trees and their spirits. Any tree can be a doorway into the fairy realm. Any tree can be a source of energy and creativity in its own way. By opening to those spirits, fairies, and elves associated with the trees, we invoke the energy of the tree itself into our life. Each tree and each tree spirit has its own unique qualities. Many of these are characterized by the various elves and spirits that surround it. These beings can help us in many areas of our lives. If patient, tree spirits will share their energy and their knowledge. The following list is by no means complete. It is provided only to give you a starting point in recognizing, understanding, and working with the energies of the various tree spirits. As you will see, some of these trees are also connected to fantastic creatures that are associated with the fairy realm. For example, the phoenix, dragons, unicorns, etc. Learning to attune to the spirit of the tree will help you connect with and understand the role and energies of them as well. There is much that we can learn from every tree if we learn to feel the loving caress of the shade it provides and hear its soft whispers in the rustling of its leaves. Alder. The spirit of the alder tree is very protective, and it has great knowledge about prophetic scrying with the use of water and mirrors. When it leaves the tree, it will often take the form of a raven. Apple. The apple tree has many magical fairy characteristics associated with it. It is home to one of the fantastic creatures found within the fairy realm, the unicorn. Traditionally, the unicorn lives beneath the apple tree. The apple blossoms draw out great numbers of flower fairies in the spring, who promote feelings of happiness in those who are near. The spirit of this tree holds the knowledge of eternal youth and beauty. Its spirit will often take the form of a beautifully enticing woman who can open the heart to new love. Ash. The ash tree has great mysticism and power associated with it. In the Norse tradition, it was called Yggdrasil, the great tree of life. It is a doorway to many dimensions of the Faerie Realm. Its spirit is strong, and it holds the knowledge of how events and people are linked together. It can teach the magic of poetry and how to weave words into powerful effects. Birch. The birch is a magical tree, and its spirit can connect you to many aspects of the elemental realms of life. It has great antiquity, and it is sometimes known as the Lady of the Woods. It is a doorway whose energy can connect you with all of the beings and goddesses of the woodlands, including the wood nymphs. The bark should never be taken without permission, but once permission is granted, this wondrous spirit can demonstrate how to use a staff made from birch to pass from the mortal realm to the fairy realm and back again. Cedar. This tree and its spirit are both protective and healing. It also has ties to the unicorn of the fairy realm, as the unicorn keeps its treasures in boxes made of cedar. This spirit brings calm and balance to emotions and can stimulate inspiring dream activity. Cherry. Just as the apple tree is the home of the unicorn, the cherry tree is home to yet another of those fantastic creatures of the fairy realm, the phoenix. The spirit of this tree is often fiery in appearance. It has the ability to bring individuals to the threshold of a new awakening. Elder. The elder tree was sacred to those of the Druid and Celtic traditions. It was the tree of birth and death, beginning and end. Its spirit is that of transition. It teaches how to awaken opportunities, to cast out the old and build the new. This tree can be a doorway to link with the mother goddess in many forms. This tree spirit has knowledge of great magic. She can provide protection and add power to even the slightest of wishes. The elder spirit facilitates contact with all the beings of the woods, including the dryads and other wood nymphs. She is the mother who protects her groves and all of her children within them. It is the ideal tree spirit to connect with, to awaken a renaissance with the fairy realm. Elm. The elm is the tree of intuition. Its spirit holds knowledge of how to awaken it to its fullest. It can teach how to hear the inner call. There is always great elf activity around this tree, so much so that if balance is not used, it is easy to become fairy charmed. This tree spirit is so sensitive that it will mourn when other members of its family are cut down. It holds knowledge of empathy and compassion. Hawthorn. The hawthorn is sacred to the fairies and elves. They hold great love for this tree and its spirit. This is the tree of magic, all of the magic found within the fairy realm. This spirit will provide a doorway to the inner realms, as well as protection against their magic. You must learn to be patient with the hawthorn spirit, or those inner realm doors will not be opened to their fullest. This spirit can stimulate growth and fertility in all areas of your life, making it seem enchanted to others. Hazel. This tree is home to a quiet spirit of magic. All fruit and nut trees are symbolic of hidden wisdom, and the spirit of this tree can help you acquire hidden wisdom in a unique manner. It will awaken intuition and insight, and it holds knowledge of the electromagnetic fields of the earth. Attuning to this spirit can reveal much information about dowsing. This quiet spirit also holds knowledge of the weaving of words for great effects, and it can teach how to go within the quiet of one's own mind and consciousness. Meditation. Holly. Technically, holly is a bush, but it has the power of a tree, and its spirit is often guardian to many of the little people. The holly is home to great numbers of elves and fairies. It was sacred to the Druids, who kept it inside their homes during the winter to provide a haven for the fairy beings. Its spirit often is seen in masculine form, and it has knowledge of the angelic realms and how to connect to them. Holly shows how best to become a true spiritual warrior, and if worked with, it can stimulate dynamic healing abilities. Maple. This is a spirit who always appears in its true androgynous form, neither male nor female, embodying qualities of both. It has great knowledge of balance and how to use balance to stay connected to Mother Earth. It can awaken the feminine aspects of nurturing, intuition, and creativity. The flowering maple draws many fairies to it, and if attuned to during that time, the fairies will assist you in fulfilling sweet promises and aspirations. Oak. The oak tree was sacred to the Celts and the Druids. It is home to a powerful spirit which has great strength and endurance. It holds the ancient knowledge of the continuity of life, and just being near it is strengthening to the entire auric field. It is a natural doorway to the fairy realms and their mysteries. Every acorn has its own little fairy, and bringing an acorn into your home is a way of inviting more intimate contact with the fairies for brief periods. The oak tree is always home to great populations of elves and fairies. The oak tree in which mistletoe is found is even more magical and powerful. Mistletoe, although found in the masculine oak, has fairies associated with it that embody the feminine energies. Where mistletoe is found, there will be fairy protection of children and those who are reconnecting with the child within. The fairies of the mistletoe hold the knowledge of invisibility and shapeshifting. They have great beauty and can stimulate fertility. Linking with mistletoe of the oak can awaken visions of your soul in the future. Pine. The pine tree has a powerful and ancient spirit. It has ties to the Dionysian mysteries, and it was the sacred tree of Mithra. It was also sacred to Poseidon. Pine trees found along shorelines are often gathering spots for water spirits and sprites. This tree's spirit is healing and balancing, especially to emotions. It can show you how to express creative energies without feelings of guilt. It is protective against all forms of negativity. Redwood. The redwood tree is one of the oldest and largest of the tree spirits upon the planet. They are direct descendants from the time known as Lemuria. They are homes to wondrous fairies and elves, who, in spite of their rarity, are not shy about human contact. The redwood spirit can open great spiritual vision, and contact with them will bring extended growth periods that will touch the soul on many levels. They can help clarify one's own personal vision of life. Rowan. The rowan is another ancient and magical tree. Its spirit holds the knowledge of the omens of nature and how to read them without becoming superstitious. This spirit is protective and visionary, and it can be used to connect with all goddesses. The wisdom of this spirit is so strong that when linked with, it can teach you to call up magic spirits, guides, and elementals. It is a tree spirit that helps prevent intrusions by outside forces. It is grounding and prevents humans from becoming lost in the fairy realms. Spruce. The spirit of the spruce tree holds great knowledge about healing, especially in relation to the metaphysical causes of disease. Its spirit is gentle and will open doorways to the fairy realm in the manner best handled by the individual. It is not unusual for those who attune to the spirit of spruce to find that there follows an increase in animals within that environment. The spruce spirit loves human company and activity, and it likes to align itself with families. If there is a spruce tree in the yard, it is often the primary protector and caretaker of the yard. It enjoys having a relationship with humans. The spruce spirit often affects the dream state, and when attuned to, will appear occasionally in them. Sycamore. The sycamore was a sacred tree to the Egyptians, and is still a doorway into those realms where beings and forces associated with Egypt can still be connected with. It can teach how to receive from the universe, be it in the form of assistance, compliments, or any other form. It holds the knowledge of the laws of abundance and supply, and how to utilize them to your greatest benefit. It also has knowledge of hidden treasures. Attuning to the sycamore will augment all connections to nature. Walnut. The walnut tree has an ancient spirit with knowledge of the tides of change. How to recognize and use them is part of what it can teach. It can open the individual to new perspectives on life. The walnut spirit also has knowledge of the mysteries of death and rebirth, and how to apply them specifically to your life. It is a doorway into the Faerie Realm that can initiate change and the creative transition of rebirth. It also draws and houses fairies, and it is not unusual to find fairies gathering and playing upon the walnuts themselves. Willow. The willow is a magical tree with great mysticism and life to it. It was associated with Orpheus in the Greek tradition and the goddess Brigid in the Celtic. It has a long association with the Faerie Realm. Its spirit and the elves who live under it are keepers of the knowledge of herbology. The willow tree can speak audibly to us if we learn to quiet ourselves and listen. It is most discernible at night. The willow spirit often leaves the tree at night and follows travelers, muttering and speaking to them. Not understanding, most travelers are frightened by this. The willow spirit has knowledge of how to make and use magic wands. The willow tree opens vision and communication and stimulates great dream activity. The best time to attune to it and its energies and spirit is at night.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. As they were going over all of the different trees, what trees can we plant in our yard so that we can be near them, but also what wood would we like our wands to be made out of? What out of the descriptions did you learn? Because I was sitting there and I was like, all right, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But we have the meditation left to do, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then we can discuss some things at the end. Hi, Anna. How are you doing? Yes, I am so glad that you are back this week. So, all right, here we go.
Exercise 1. Meeting the tree spirits. 1. This exercise is most effective when performed while sitting in the midst of trees, under a tree, or in a position to be looking upon the tree itself. Begin your connection with the tree that has always been your favorite. This reflects that it has spoken to you already. If you have no particular favorite, choose a tree that is in your yard or close to your living environment. Because it is in close proximity, you will have already established some kind of connection. 2. Read and explore as much information about the tree as possible. This can be information from a scientific basis or from a mystical one. The more you understand about the tree, the more you will understand some of the characteristics of its spirit. This will help you in developing resonance with it. 3. If possible, choose a day that is sunny and with little or no breeze. Sit within the tree's shade. The shadow of the tree is a border space that facilitates connecting with the tree spirit and any fairies and elves associated with it. It is beneficial to think of the tree's shadow as an outward embrace of the tree spirit. You may wish to sit against the trunk of the tree so that you can feel it. You may want to sit across from it so that you can watch the bark and other tree formations for the appearance of the spirit itself. Choose your position as it suits you at the time. You will find it varies from tree to tree. 4. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths. You may wish to perform a progressive relaxation. The more relaxed you are, the easier it will be to perceive the spirit of the tree itself and others of the Faerie Realm. 5. In your mind's eye, visualize an image of the tree before you. Its shadow extends toward you, but doesn't quite touch you. See it standing strong and full. The grass beneath you is soft and lush. The air is sweet and clean. The sunlight that penetrates through this tree casts a soft haze around you. As you look around, you see you are in a familiar place. It is the small glen that you entered to meet the flower fairies. In the distance is that same high mountain and the path leading up to it. On the opposite of this small glen, the path continues, leading down to the valley below. This is your sanctuary, a place where the real and the imagined meet. It is an intersection of the mortal world and the fairy realm. The tree stands strong in the midst of this glen, a singular antenna linking the heavens and the earth. As you look upon it, you are thrilled by its simple beauty and strength. With that thought, a soft breeze passes through, rustling the leaves in response. And for a moment, you are sure the leaves rustled your name. You gaze upon the tree and see shadows and movements, tiny flickerings along the branches and at its base. At first you think it must be squirrels or birds, but you are unable to see them. As you take in the entire sight of this tree, the lines in the bark begin to change and shift. You can see soft, gentle eyes peering out from the bark. You are no longer watching the tree. You are being watched by it. There is a shadowy movement, and a form steps out from the tree itself to stand in its own shadow. It shimmers and shifts with incredible beauty. Around it flicker several tiny lights, and you know they must be fairies. Peering around from behind it, you see a tiny elfin face, shy but curious. Then the spirit speaks your name. The leaves of the tree rustle again, and you laugh with delight. As you look upon this being, pay attention to what you experience. Are there specific colors, fragrances? Do you feel a touch or a tingle on any part of the body? Is this tree spirit male or female? Remember that those of the fairy realm will often use a form they think you expect. It begins to talk softly to you. It speaks of its purpose and what knowledge it holds. It tells you its role in nature and what role it could serve in your own life. It tells you of the mystery of the tree and why this one is so important to you. See this as a conversation between you and the tree. Don't force it. Let the communication flow naturally. Let this being tell you about itself. Let it tell you why it wants to work with you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't worry that you might be imagining it all and that it's all a product of the mind. You would not be able to imagine it at all if there wasn't something real about it. The leaves rustle with a singing sound as this wondrous being speaks. It sends shivers of delight through you. You see specific birds and other wildlife gathering about, and you are told these will be signs of greeting in the future. The tree being holds its palms upwards, and the shadow of the tree extends further outward until you are encompassed by it. For the first time, you can actually feel a shadow. Its caress is soft and gentle and loving, and you are filled with a sense of great promise. And then the shadow withdraws. As it recedes, the eyes of the tree spirit hold yours with tenderness until the spirit is drawn back into the heart of the tree. You can see its form within the natural configurations of the tree itself, and you know you will forever recognize it from this day forth. The leaves rustle once more, whispering your name, and then they are still. You feel thrilled and relaxed, and as you do, the scene before you shifts and changes until you feel yourself sitting where you first began this meditation, comfortable and peaceful. You remember all that you were told, and you now know why you have always been drawn to this tree. 6. At this point, breathe deeply and regularly. Listen and feel. Extend your senses out. Do you feel any touches or tingles on any part of the body? Do you hear the whisper of leaves? Do you hear the presence of specific birds or wildlife? Are there any fragrances that stand out? Slowly open your eyes and gaze softly at the tree upon which you were focused for this meditation. Keep your eyes half focused. Do you see any shadows and forms? Can you see the form of the tree spirit within the real tree, just as you did in the meditation? 7. Observe and note anything that you perceive. You may wish to record observations to honor this meeting and future meetings with this tree spirit. Give thanks for the sharing in some way. The old concept of giving a tree a hug is very effective. Touching or hugging the tree will ground your energies, and it will honor the communication and connection with its spirit, and those of the Faerie Realm who call it home.
Wow, that was deep. It really takes you somewhere. Gives you a lot to think about. These trees are some of the oldest spirits there are. And the knowledge and the wisdom that they have and that they share with you is just amazing. All right, so we will pick up next week. And let me see what we are going to be discussing next week. Fantastic creatures of the Faerie Realm. So make sure that you guys join us next week, because that sounds like it's going to be so much fun and so exciting. I have pasted a link to the playlist in the comment section. So if you have missed any of our episodes, please go back and watch the episodes, because there is so much information, and it's amazing. And you really feel when you're in these meditations, you're really there. It's hard to explain until you experience it. So go back and watch the previous episodes and just feel the fairies, feel the spirits of the trees, feel the spirits of the gnomes, see the flower fairies dancing around you. All these wonderful and fantastic creatures are right here among us. So I will see you right back here next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, smash on that like button, and click the little bell so that you'll receive notifications of when I go live or upload new videos. I have uploaded 10 of the 12 zodiac signs for the month of May. I have not yet done Leo and Sagittarius, so sorry. I will get to those probably today. And I also upload the weekly forecast every Monday, or I try to, and do daily card reveals. Also, we have Conjure Crew on Sundays, Virtual Book Club on Wednesdays. Sometimes I pop on, do free readings, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on, so you're really going to want to click that little bell so you receive my notifications. If you are watching this on Facebook, there's a link in the description. Anna, it will be at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. So whatever time it was 47 minutes ago for you, that's what time we start every Wednesday. All right, guys. I'll talk to you next week. Love you bunches. Bye-bye.